This year, Philomena Daly, with a 3.95 cumulative grade point average, was ranked second in the graduating senior class, and she will give to us the Salutatorian address.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on this monumental and what most appropriately would be called a glorious day. Dear fathers, sisters, faculty, family, and friends, it is an honor to represent the class of 2025 and welcome you to this commencement ceremony. I remember coming to graduations as an elementary student and watching in awe as the valedictorian and salutatorian gave their speeches, hoping that I would never ever have to stand up there again. Of course, as they would have it, here I am. Dear fellow graduates, here we are. We've known it's been coming for a long time, but it's really and actually here. In just a little while, we will walk across the stage, receive our diplomas, and pass our tassels. Some of us have spent 13 years together. 13 years filled with unforgettable milestones, mutual growth, and many wonderful memories. Whether it was Will constantly getting chased around by first grade girls to play his guitar, Hannah enlightening us all to the fact that his name is really pronounced Albert Einstein, Maggie's contagious laughter echoing down the hallways, or just all of us sitting back on the rooftop and round, we have had so many enjoyable dinners together and have shared some truly precious moments. While there have definitely been difficult days, I can honestly say to myself that I've never had a bad year at Vincent. Now, if you know me, you might say that was because I can be one of the most phlegmatic people out there. And I have to agree that is probably part of it. But it is also because my class and I have been on the receiving end of so much dedication and sacrifice. I've received so much that is generously and sincerely given, and have encountered a uniquely wholesome and nurturing spirit at St. Vincent's. We have received a foundation which will and has enabled us to grow as upright individuals, trained us to seek the truth, and formed us not only to be prepared for the path of life we choose, but also for the eternal destiny we are called to. When people think of light, they might think of the sun, or a candle, or a light bulb. But I think what we notice more than the light itself are the things it illuminates. When one stops to think about it, almost everything we do is with the aid of light. We are able to accomplish things and live our lives because of it, and that's on a purely natural and physical level. If natural light enables and warrants so much, how much more so intellectual light? How much more so spiritual light? Without it, we are blind and helpless. With it, we are free to decide and choose, able to live fruitfully. And it is so striking to me how one small light can dispel all darkness. St. Francis of Assisi affirmed, "All the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of a single candle." After all, what is darkness but the absence of light? And what does it do but accentuate it and enable it to shine all the more? A lighthouse, for example. It is nothing more than one tiny light in the vast churning dark of a stormy night, but it harbors countless ships to safety, saving light that would be utterly lost without it. We also have the realistic analogy from Scripture. The light shined in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. Light is so utterly superior to darkness, it cannot be compared. Any darkness melts into nothing in its presence. It is also interesting that with light always comes warmth. Warmth which gives life, warmth that draws, warmth which is always affiliated as well. Not only as Catholics, but as humans, we are called to be a light ourselves. We are soul and body, intellect and will. We naturally possess and give light and warmth. We are made as such. Father de Cheever declares that man is a spark of God's boundless radiance. For us, our childhood and education have supplied us with the tools and kindling we need to be just that. We have been lighted, so to speak, with the light of understanding, love, and faith. And now we carry that into the world and our futures as a part of us. In truth, we have been handed it all on a silver platter. A quote from Aristotle, "Educating the mind without educating the soul is not education at all." We have received a true education. in a world where so many lights are flickering fainter and fainter. How rare is it to be blessed with such an upbringing as we have received? How rare is it to grow up in a truly Catholic family who really let the light in? How rare is it to attend a school which truly performs the mission of a school? And more impressive still, one which exists only due to the volunteer efforts and care of the faculty which give themselves for its success. C.S. Lewis stated, "No great wisdom can be reached without sacrifice." What we as students have learned has been due to the sacrifice of so many of you. I cannot stress it enough. A most sincere and heartfelt thanks to all of the teachers who have invested their time, energy, and for many a significantly large part of their lives into our formation. You are the reason that I'm standing here today. You are the reason we are each of us prepared for what life will bring. I cannot imagine some of the hours you must have for us. Although it is impossible to thank each of you, I would like to draw special attention to a few who stand out. We had Sister Frances Marie, kindergarten and second grade, and Sister, we have all agreed that you have definitely found the fountain of youth, which is hidden in the convent. You look the exact same as you did 13 years ago, and have the same gentle, patient presence. Thank you. Mrs. Killian is probably the teacher who arguably gave the most for us, though she was known for being strict and for her endless stack of corrections. What we didn't realize at the time was that she had to spend twice the amount of time as we did on them, all for our sakes. Though she is not here, I would like to thank her for all the sacrifices she made in dealing with our complaints, and am willing to admit that her discipline was honestly what we probably needed. I think it would be great if one of her brothers could have had. Mrs. Love, I remember you seeming so scared through the second grade wall. Then the first day of third grade, you got your coffee and sat on your stool at the front of the classroom and told us all about yourself. I went from thinking you were terrifying to one of the coolest teachers ever, and you have lived up to that. Thank you for all your math knowledge and for being such a captivating teacher. I would especially like to thank Sister Louise. Sister, thank you for the many classes and assignments in which you pushed us to discover our true abilities and challenged us to work hard. As a total procrastinator, I needed that, and I will treasure some of my essays with you forever. Mrs. Diggs, you have been our school mom since 5th grade, and I cannot put into words how much we miss you. You have truly been the sweetest. I'll always remember that early Monday morning after tech week last year. We arrived at school exhausted, only to find that from class we were making coffee and eating the scones you had made for us, even when you had to be just as tired. You have always gone out of your way to make sure everything's just right for our meals and for the play. Thank you for everything. Also, a huge thank you to Sister Marinard. Where to begin? It seems like you have always been there, a solid, approachable presence who was at first so horrifying and intimidating. And don't worry, you still can be. But who has brought so much to our high school journey. Your wisdom and steadiness, your ability to read people and solve problems, has been indispensable. What it will be like not to see you every morning, I cannot imagine. We will miss you dearly. Last but not least, I would like to thank Father Trooper. Despite the fact that you jokingly lament that you are a failure for slow in class, you have succeeded in opening our minds to the truths of the faith, have taught us to really chew on the big questions of life, and have ingrained it all forever in our brain with your very memorable analogies. Whether it's vigorously leading the little boys in a workout, or shepherding us all around with your code sign language, you are a true father to the school. Many of us agree that that's what we've ever had, and it shows. Thank you for all the dedication you constantly give for each of us. To all the people I haven't mentioned, and also particularly to Father Beck, Ms. Hebel, and Mrs. Spencer, thank you. By shedding your light and imparting it to us, you have given us what we can never repay. To my parents, thank you for being with me every step of the way, for the serious, hard things, as well as for the everyday. Thank you for your stunning example. I can never repay what you have given me in raising me as a young Catholic woman, but I will try to use what I have been given to the best of my ability and keep alive the light you have ignited. I love you. To my fellow graduates, we who are about to enter the next phase of life are endowed with that light which we have received. That light which is a part of every human and which we have been fortunate enough to receive in clarity. And this light is now forever a part of us. We just have to realize it and look for it. We can apply to our own lives the words of an early American philosopher. A ship is safe in harbor, but that is not what ships are for. It is our turn to embark on the unknown seas of life and carry our light everywhere we go, never letting it go out. Thank you for these past wonderful years. I have learned so much from each of you, and will miss seeing you every day more than I could ever hope to express in a big graduation speech. Though our paths now head in different directions, I look forward to seeing where life leads us. With our foundation being what it is, the future is indeed bright. To conclude, I would like to leave you with a stanza from the poem by Charles Dickens. The pure, the bright, the beautiful that stirred our hearts in youth, the impulses toward this prayer, the streams of love and truth, the longing after something lost, the spirit's yearning cry, the striving after better hopes. These things can never die. Thank you.
The 3.98 cumulative grade point average is ranked first in the graduating senior class. She will give the valedictorian address.
Dear fathers, sisters, teachers, family, friends, and fellow students, what can a senior girl have to say to her principal, vice principal, her teachers, her parents, and her superiors? Well, not very much. But what I cannot say enough is thank you. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you who has been a part of our formation at St. Vincent's. It is because of your constant gift of self that we are here today. In particular, I would like to thank my parents for your continued encouragement, love, and support, and for the many sacrifices you have made in order to give us a solid Catholic education and a balanced life. The many hours you generously give to the school are a great inspiration to me. Thank you. Little does the cross-country team know that coaches' daughters have a lot more say than you think in those grueling workout sessions up Suicide Hill. But Josie and I have it harder than anyone, because Dad is our 24/7 running coach, as well as our biggest art, singing, and graduation speech critic. And who can say that they practice chant late at night with their mom, or sing a Palestrina piece at the piano, sometimes just for the fun of it. I would also like to give a special thanks to someone who has made a tremendous impact at St. Vincent's during his time here. The school has blossomed under his care, and I venture to say it is because of his joyful spirit, wisdom, and love of God. Yes, it is Father Trumer. My class and I have reflected countless times on how your influence on the school and interaction with all the students has made it flourish with a joyful, familial spirit. Thank you for all of your hard work, dedication, and selflessness in caring for St. Vincent de Paul Academy. I have so many memories of my years at St. Vincent's, and it all began with horrible excitement. I think enough time has passed between now and first grade to reveal this. So I will tell you that I threw up almost every morning during the first few weeks of school. Yes, I think it was a mixture of excitement about my new classmates and a mortal fear of math. I seem to remember reading in the 2022 yearbook that one of the senior boys, one of my relatives in fact, said that his favorite memory was, quote, when the girls left the school and school became something fun and something to appreciate. I can only respond to this flattering memory that the feeling is mutual at the Tracy campus. From reenacting Pride and Prejudice scenes in between classes to hockey games resulting in bruises, cuts, and broken fingers, to frolicking around the hallway to father's office to get a mint, having lively class arguments in and out of class. Our high school years have gone as quickly as they came, amid tears, laughter, and a spirit of true Catholic sisterhood. On our senior trip to Rome, right after Easter, we visited the Vatican Museum. We almost couldn't because someone was late, and we couldn't enter without our chaplain. Anyway, we did get in, and as we wandered through one gallery after the other, my jet-lagged mind was still in shock with its sudden exposure to all those famous works you read about in books, like Caesar Augustus, Laocoon, Athena, and Raphael's School of Athens. But there were also a lot of hidden gems. On the ceiling of one gallery was a beautiful depiction of St. Thomas Aquinas presenting his writings to Holy Mother Church. In the lower right corner sat Aristotle in deep thought, representing how natural reason leads to divine truth. Near this scene was the inscription, "The splendor of the divine truths received into the mind helps the understanding." From Leo XIII's encyclical, Aeterni Patris. I was struck by the beauty and clarity of those words when you think about them in context of everything we learn at school here. From kindergarten until senior year, our minds are gradually opened to receive the divine truth, and that is the base of all that we learn. Our understanding only deepens with our knowledge of the faith. I would like to encourage the students to view your years here with enthusiasm, love, and receptiveness to what Leo XIII calls the splendor of the divine truth, and in so doing to fight the poisonous spirit of mediocrity in the world. In a world that disdains high ideals, the sublime is forgotten, the soul is starved, and love of God is replaced by love of self. With eyes turned inward, people forget to live for things which are much higher than themselves. In Miles Connolly's novel, Mr. Blue, who is a sort of modern St. Francis in 1920s Boston, laments the modern world's lack of enthusiasm. In a letter to his friend, he says, "Once, I'm told, men put on their shields and banners such brave words as love, audacity, faith. Today, we have written across 1 million pages and placards and billboards our slogans. Self-considerateness, thrift, safety first. We have about as much hunger for loveliness as a turtle, and about as much capacity for intense and varied living as a cabbage." This spirit, or lack of spirit, has especially crept into many schools. No longer are they sanctuaries of truth, beauty, and goodness, but rather factories, spitting out products which are insensible to the greater meaning behind life. Heaven forbid that anyone should seek an education which opens their minds to the divine. But St. Vincent's is a place to combat mediocrity by the very fact that we care. We are surrounded by peers who are our closest friends and who care for us. Every day, men and women who care deeply about education sacrifice in order to share their wisdom with us. This sacrifice isn't lukewarm. At its roots, I think the antidote to the apathy of the modern world is love. And by love, I don't mean the flimsy, gushing emotion promoted by the world, but love in the eyes of faith, as a choice. Love of learning, of the truth, of beauty, love of our classmates, and of every minute spent in the formation of our minds and souls here. By loving intensely and caring deeply, we can disperse indifference. Sincere love cannot be mediocre. I quote Mr. Blue again. Genuine love cannot endure silence. Genuine love breaks out into speech. And when it is great love, it breaks into song. I love this quote because it reminds me of our school. Our years here are a song, in a way, both literally and figuratively. Anyone will testify that we break into song at the least provocation. But these years are also a song of wonder. In Dostoevsky's words, we love all God's creation, both the whole and every grain of sand. Love every leaf, every ray of light. Love the animals, love the plants. Love each separate thing. We learn to delight in the truths of the natural world as flowing from divine truth. And this wonder results in joy. Things spread at our school, and happiness is the most infectious virus of all. When Father Trumer bursts into the classroom on a gloomy Monday morning, singing the Magnificat, or when he gives his famous pep talks during exam time with his Jocko-Willink voice about how pressure makes diamonds. The entire school is affected, from the youngest kindergartner to the most weary senior. Truly, this happiness is rooted in love. But to really love your education, you have to understand why you are here. As St. Thomas Aquinas says, you cannot love what you do not know. School is a preparation for eternity, a sanctuary of intelligence and contemplation, where the mind is introduced to the eternal truths which we will contemplate one day before the face of God. Day by day, we come to shape our opinions and tastes around virtue. In true, it is not always a bed of roses. What with studying, memorizing, reading, and slaving away over homework on nice sunny afternoons, we all run the risk of forgetting what we're about. But as we learn repeatedly in school, love isn't just an emotion, but a choice. If we choose to love learning for its own sake, because it is good, and not merely because it is fun or because we have to, then that is the deepest love of all. Plato says that to contemplate the object seen, the eye must first resemble it. The soul cannot see the beautiful unless it is first beautiful itself. If it would contemplate God, every being must become divine. This is where the spiritual life comes into our education. It's intertwined with all that we do. We are truly given every opportunity to become divine, to share in the life of God by His grace, in the Mass and the sacraments, through the liturgy. In every class, in some way, we are exposed to the beauty of God so that we come to desire a more perfect union with Him and a deeper understanding of His mysteries. When Father Bronner said his first Mass at St. Vincent's, he gave a talk at the reception to the youth that always stuck with me. He encouraged us to always seek higher things, to have a purpose in life, to be young men and women of action who aim at greatness, not in a worldly sense, but greatness of soul and character, spiritual greatness. And what better place to begin than in school, by embracing each new challenge as a means to forge our minds and souls in the traditions of the faith and of Western culture. Most of you probably know the story of Camelot. It is a summary of what it means to love the good, true, and beautiful, and what happens when they are forgotten and disregarded. If you remember, the kingdom of Camelot crumbles because Queen Guinevere does not truly love King Arthur's goodness and justice. She sees his upright life as dull and not worthwhile. She falls for lower ideals, is unfaithful to her husband, and consequently the kingdom falls after her. As she finally repents too late, she realizes that, in her own words, we needs must love the highest when we see it. This is especially applicable to students, both in school and afterwards. It's a striking reminder to appreciate what is good, beautiful, and meaningful in life, so that it does not fade from our grasp, leaving a cold, ugly world behind. To cherish and to choose our education for its own sake is already to oppose the world's stupidity. That is why I urge you, students, to enthusiastically invest in your time here and make the choice to love it. In St. Vincent de Paul's words, let the light in your mind become a flame in your heart. And soon it will be your turn to show your unashamed love to the world and carry it with you proudly for your entire lives, a love of what is highest and best. Class of 2025, we have learned this together. I cannot express how much your love and friendship has meant to me. And I can't count the amount of times I have been told, you have such a good class, stay close to them. I hope and pray that over the years, our bond will only tighten. I am forever grateful for your friendship, camaraderie, and exuberant enthusiasm. We will always look back with gratitude and fondness on everything you have been given at St. Vincent's, and can only hope to repay it in the years to come. Let us carry what we have learned with us, wherever life may take us, and never forget to love the highest when we see it. Thank you.
Good morning, fathers, sisters, families, friends, students, and graduates. It is definitely a privilege to be given one last chance to say something to my students, especially when circumstances prohibit them from sidetracking the topic with a variety of questions. I think most speakers in this situation feel very inadequate. And so I will just use someone else's great ideas to emphasize 2 points in this little talk. One of the sisters often teases me that I only read dark, depressing stories. But I have found a cheerful one. It comes from Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago. In this work, Solzhenitsyn collected stories from a variety of people who had suffered at the hands of the Russian communists. And in describing their experiences, he talks about the arrest and interrogation processes that the KGB used. He begins with these very bewildering midnight visits from the police, in which the house is ransacked and the person is arrested and taken to prison. He then describes the various stages the prisoner goes through. And the first is utter confusion, because they are not aware of having done anything wrong, and they don't know why they've been arrested. As time goes on, they realize there must be some mistake, and as the investigation proceeds, things will be cleared up and they will be released. Soon it becomes clear that their captors are not very concerned about the truth. And so the prisoner aims to say the right things in order to be free. Eventually he sees that they have no evidence, they know they have no evidence, and they don't care that they have no evidence. There's a quota to be filled, and that prisoner is one of the number. At this point, the prisoner only wants to be rid of the interrogation process. He is then willing to sign any document, any confession, simply to get away from them. At that point, everything is legal, and they are sent to a concentration camp. But one time, they brought in a little old woman who actually was guilty. She had been working with an underground group responsible for hiding political figures from the KGB. When she was brought in, the interrogator sat her down and said, "You have been accused of harboring the former patriarch of Moscow." "Oh no," she replied. "I have been harboring the current patriarch of Moscow. And it is a privilege." They actually realized that they would never be able to break her, and they let her go. I bring this story up not so much because she got away, but to highlight her courage, a courage that came from her convictions. She was not there to play games to save her life. She understood what was important, and she was dedicated to it. And she was willing to risk everything for it. Father Bean, in his book, What is Education?, speaks of the effectiveness of the socialists of his time. He boils it down to the fact that they had a materialist ideology. And they supported this materialist ideology with a materialistic way of life. Because of this, there was no division in their life. And they were very successful in what they did. Father Lee points out that Christians don't always do the same thing. As Christians, we have principles that are spiritual, but often in practice, our way of life is more concerned about materialistic things. There's a division in our life when we do this, and consequently our energy is wasted, and we may not become what God wants us to be. Now that you graduates are going out into the world, as we say, you must have convictions that are strong enough to influence how you will live, how you will interact with others, what choices you will make. You may not be arrested and interrogated like our little old lady, but you will most certainly have other temptations to abandon your principles. Not so much as a threat to your life, but very likely for the sake of expediency and convenience. And it will be all the more difficult for you because your victory will not be obvious, but it is the reality. You have been given the means to know what your priorities ought to be, and you are expected to use them. I will just tell one more story. This one is about a man named Viktor Frankl. He was born in Austria in 1905. He was of Jewish descent, and he grew up to become a psychologist. During the early years of World War II, he was offered an opportunity by an American university to come to America to work on their faculty and continue his research for a specific school of psychology, of therapy, that he was developing at the time. The university would take care of all of his paperwork, permissions, visas, anything he needed for him to leave Austria. All he had to do was go to the American embassy and pick up the documents. However, he was not allowed to take his elderly parents with him. He would have to leave them behind. As you can imagine, his parents were overjoyed at this. They all knew what was coming with the Nazis, and they were glad that their son would be safe. But Frankl was not at peace. He wasn't certain what he ought to do. He spent quite a bit of time going over this, and one day as he walked home, he stopped at a Catholic church to pray for some kind of a sign. He did not receive a sign. So he left the church and he went home. As he came in, he noticed in the hall there was a table that had some pieces of rubble on it. And he asked his father where the rubble came from. His father had collected it from the local synagogue, which had been burned down recently. He collected those pieces because they had engravings on them in Hebrew of the Ten Commandments. When Frankl pointed at one and said, "What does that one say?" his father looked at it and said, "Honor thy father and mother." The son took that as his sign, and he let the documents expire. Shortly afterwards, he and his family were arrested and taken to a concentration camp. Frankl survived the war, but both his parents died in the camps. The first time I heard this story, I was shocked. I thought, why would anybody tell a story like that? It is so sad. Why did he stay? What good result came of his staying? He couldn't save his parents. They even wanted him to leave. And on top of it, he suffered greatly in the camps. But he chose to be a son. He was not concerned about the results. That was not what he was sacrificing for. He did not think he would be able to somehow save his parents. He knew full well what was coming when he let those papers expire. He was there simply to be what he ought to be. Certainly his convictions influenced his way of life. He says later, writing about his struggles in the camps, the hopelessness of our struggle did not detract from its dignity and its meaning. We see the same attitude in the little old woman who was interrogated by the communists. She did not know she was going to be freed. She was not trying to say the right thing in order to get out. She didn't think she was going to win. All she knew was that she was fighting for something that was important, and she would not compromise. The struggle has meaning apart from the result. And this is my last point I want to say to you. Be what God wants you to be. Don't worry yourself over results and achievements. It is not so much about what you are doing, but about what you are while doing those things. Are you fulfilling your true purpose? Are you lovers of God? Are you soldiers of Christ? I will end with one last quote from Frankl. He said, "Success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must end soon. And it only does so as an unintended side effect of one's dedication to a cause greater than oneself."
Philomena and Marie Daly. Rita Marine Tinkle. Cum laude, Sophia Rose Donnelly. Magdalene Marie Green. DeMello Elian Gonzalez Osterio. Cum laude, Olivia Philomena Manny. Summa cum laude, Marianne Francis Spencer. William Luke Stiegel.
2 and 3, hit it!